Kaiju number 8 is back, baby, with a heat chapter, with more info, with more lore drop. But sadly, we gotta wait another month for another chapter. God damn it. You can't getting away with this. So yeah, so I just finished reading the Stormlight Archive. I don't know if anyone is like a huge fan of the Stormlight Archive. I just finished reading the first book, The Way of Kings. And here's the thing. I think this chapter is a very good example on how you should be doing flashbacks. Because in The Way of Kings, like there were a lot of flashbacks and like not many of them clicked for me. I felt like most of them kind of repeated themselves. So yeah, I think this chapter is a very good example of how to do a flashback efficiently. It gives all the concrete information that you need. It's basically one chapter of a flashback that gives you a ton of info. Sadly, though, we gotta wait 1 month. So, so anyway, yeah, I just used that example because I have the Stormlight like, fresh in my brain. But yeah, I have like The Way of Kings fresh in my brain. Anyway, Kaiju number 8, a brand new chapter. What happened? A lot, actually. So we find out that, in the ancient times, and I don't remember them talking about this. If they did, I completely forgot, and I just, don't remember. But apparently in the ancient times, in the old days, they used to use, I guess, like a parasitic monster. Here's the thing. So there is a I don't know if it was a parasitic monster that gave all of these guys like the flesh to make weapons, or if they each had their own parasitic monster. So that wasn't very clear for me. But they used to use these weapons made out of monsters as like a type of parasitic host, parasite host type of thing, so that they could therefore use these weapons. Very clever, very interesting how they used to do it back in the day, which is kind of, I guess, in a way what they're doing nowadays. The difference is that they have the technology to harness more power. But I feel like the thing is, I feel like it was much more efficient back then, because nowadays they have like the suits, but only a few of them bond with like the kaiju or like monsters. And they seem to be doing really well. Really well until that eldritch Lovecraftian monster showed up from like within that kaiju and then just like completely wrecked all of them. So yeah, that's the whole situation right now. This aspect I find very interesting, and I hope that Kafka kind of remembers this and maybe ends up applying this once more, so that everybody, they can have a small army of people that can use at least a small fraction of the power. Because as it stands right now, only a few of them can use kaiju weapons, like not all of them. So that's kind of a situation that kind of is a big bummer for them, I guess. And then we kind of see a bunch of ascendants, ancestors. What am I talking about? We see a bunch of ancestors. We see Hoshina's ancestor, who had like long ass hair and was a commander as well, which is really cool. And I want to imagine that Kafka was seeing this dream from the perspective of his ancestor. It kind of gave me huge like Stormfather, Dalinar, Way of Kings kind of vibes, because spoilers for that, but Dalinar is a character who kind of has visions, and he like lives the visions inside of like another person's body, and that's kind of what Kafka's doing. So I imagine he's envisioning this from the perspective of his descendant, his direct ancestor. Why am I saying descendant? What's wrong with me? And like the mind of his own ancestor. So his ancestors were back then used. Now I have a question, because I went ahead and read chapter 1, and it turns out that in chapter 1, the kaiju insect looks at Kafka and says, "I found you." So that means that obviously one of Kafka's ancestors was part of this army, so therefore this insect had a recollection of Kafka, right? Why it specifically chose Kafka, I don't know, because it was looking for Kafka, who one of his ancestors who was in that army, but so was Hoshina. So maybe what if it was actually looking for like one of the descendants from these samurai, and it turns out that it found Kafka. Because again, it was probably looking for Kafka because it wasn't like his ancestor was part of that. But like, wasn't Hoshina's ancestor kind of like that too? Was it looking for any descendant, or was it looking for a specific descendant? We'll have to find out next month, or like in 5 months. I don't know how the pacing of this manga is going to work. But yeah, that ended up happening. And so I have 2 questions. So I understood, as well as other people, that this insect, kaiju, that took over Kafka's body, it was formed, from my opinion, from the amalgamation, I guess, of just the kaiju flesh that was used in the weapons, as well as the regret and like the souls of people. Like, was it made out of the souls and flesh of the kaiju and the humans, and it turned into it? It would make a lot of sense, because it does seem to hold a lot of grudge and regret towards all kaiju. So it was probably formed from the regret of all of these soldiers, and is looking for like revenge, as it has said many times. But the situation is, what is the parasite monster that these guys were getting weapons from? Like, did they just kill like a kaiju and then just use the flesh of a kaiju to make the weapons? Was there a specific kaiju that gave them the flesh to make the weapons? I don't understand, because this insect kaiju that Kafka has was made in the aftermath of that fight. But where were they getting the weapons? Because again, he just says that in like a parasite monster type of thing, from there they get it from a parasite monster. But I'm like, where is it though? And like, what is its name? Like, where is it? Where is it at though? So that's my question. Because I really did not understand that part. It was a little bit confusing, and I don't know if I understand it that well. But yeah, he does end up saying that they do that. Like, it says, I remember learning about this. They fuse their bodies to these tools with the help of a sort of parasitic monster. What is the parasitic monster? That's my question. Because I have more questions than answers right now. I mean, I have answers, but I have more questions. Like, is it one parasitic monster? Do they just use the weapons as a parasitic monster? It's very weird. Anyway, yeah, that's basically what happened. We got to wait 1 more month before we get an advancement to the story. Oh my God. I mean, it's fine. As long as the mangaka's health is okay, it's fine. I don't mind. But yeah, I don't know, man. I don't. This was a really good chapter, and we got a lot of info. But I have, again, questions. What is the parasite monster? You know what I mean? Like, I feel like it wasn't that clear for me. If you guys know, be sure to let me know in the comments. And yeah, that's all for me. Thank you guys for watching. And yeah, that's all, man. I guess I don't know how I shouldn't really be dragging this out. Just let me know. And what do you guys think about this chapter? I thought it was dope. I thought it was really fine. And yeah, bye-bye. So I went ahead and read the Spanish one, and it was a little bit more clear in the Spanish version. So in the Spanish version, it basically says that they used the tissues from parasitic kaiju. So I imagine that there are kaiju that are like parasitic. So they use the flesh from those specific kaijus to form a type of bond with that kaiju. Because verbatim it says, I read in the historical documents that they connected the body directly through the tissues of parasitic kaijus. So I'm guessing that there are kaijus that are parasitic, and they use the tissues, the flesh of those specific parasitic kaijus to, you know, make these weapons. So yeah, I imagine it's not that there was one kaiju that gave them flesh, or just any kaiju. There are kaiju that are parasitic, and therefore they made the flesh weapons from those types of kaijus. And I imagine that this new insect kaiju that took over Kafka was made from the parasitic weapons that they had, parasitic kaiju weapons they had mixed with the regret and emotions, intense emotions from these humans, people, and then turned into this parasitic, hateful kaiju. I hope that kind of clears things up a little bit more, and it wasn't until I read the Spanish version that it was cleared up. So yeah, bye-bye.